Everyone, Sandeep here. Today we are going to discuss about scripting in ServiceNow. Scripting is a very powerful tool within ServiceNow that allows us to uh, manipulate data and also do search. In fact, whatever we are doing from the left navigation. So I've opened this out of the box ServiceNow. It's a standard developer instance, and we are going to use this to see how scripting can help us and how you can learn scripting. I'll start from the basics. I would assume that you already know object oriented programming concepts such as like inheritance. The parent and child table relationship and how they can inherit, how child table can inherit properties from parent object or table. So in ServiceNow, so if I can open a diagram that I have, so I'll just go to IO. So I've gone to draw.io. This is an utility online, freely available to draw workflow and concepts. So here you can see we have the tables which are objects in ServiceNow or any other software for that matter. Underlining data will be always stored in native tables, and these are some incident table and change request table. These are like out of the box table, and you can create your own table. That's why I've added custom table just to give an example as well. So we could, and this is one example of a how data is stored in a table which we see in the form. So if I go back, jump back to ServiceNow instance, and let's say go to incident, and let's open a blank incident form out of the box, waiting for it to load. Okay, so this is just a record out of like hundreds of data and thousands of data can reside in the incident table. So we can see, so for the sake of understanding, I'll just go ahead and fill up dummy data. So it allows us to test incident record. I'm not good at, as you can see, there are lots of spelling mistakes. Thankfully we have spell checker and spell correction. So I have gone ahead, submitted this incident. So basically we are saving a new record in incident table. Now what if we were to find this table? And now let's open another tab, and let's see how many out of the box record we have. Currently I see there are 69 such incidents on the incident table, and these are the different unique identifiers like numbers through which we can track. And then there is an unique identifier called sysid. Whenever in ServiceNow a record is saved on table, it is always stored with an unique identifier which I can copy from here. So as it has gotten copied, I'll just paste it to show to you that this is the unique identifier in the backend table, although in the front we have given it a fancy name such as inc prefix and followed by 6 or 7 digit number, which is configurable from ServiceNow. But in the underlining platform, ServiceNow platform identifies this record, this incident, with this sysid. And you can see the XML representation of each record in ServiceNow through this. If I pull it here in a visible view, you can see that I can check what are the different attributes for this record. So you can see within the XML, in the incident table, this is the record. And if you search sysid, it would show you what is the sysID which we copied. So let's just bear in mind the sysID is the unique identifier, and this is a very powerful concept which would help us identifying incident when we are working with scripting, right? So in the backend table, incident number can be duplicate, right? There can be another incident with the same number, but there can never be another incident with that same sysID. In fact, there can never be another object in the entire ServiceNow platform. For this instance, for this particular ServiceNow instance, there cannot be another record. So this tells us that we can use sysID as an unique identifier, and later we will see how we can utilize this. So generally when we work with ServiceNow platform, we see that we come across many different scenarios wherein the out of the box or the list facilities may not be sufficient to give us the exact data that we want to work with. Or also in business rule or in client script, we may want to find out a set of record which we want to modify or which we want to find, and then certain actions we may require to do. So I'll quickly show you a typical business rule, and the way we can go and find business rules is I'll right click on the header once it completes loading, and configure and business rules. You can see client scripts, both are like a package around the bare metal scripting that ServiceNow platform provides. Business rules, they run on server side, means that they would run on the server end, and the client script would work on the browser, on the Chrome browser that I have opened. This the client script is preloaded onto the browser. That's why it is very important to understand that we should not write a bunch of client scripts, unnecessary client scripts. Rather, we should use utilities, other client side utilities like UI policies and UI data policies, so that the load is kept minimum at the browser end, because it affects browser performance when your customer is opening a form such as this incident form. So we would discuss business rules and client scripts in a separate session. They require their own tutorial, I think. So we would cover that. For this particular tutorial, we would focus on scripting, bare metal scripting. But while we talk, it's necessary that we take a look at any given business rule, so to understand what typical operations that we do. So when we open a business rule, what do we see? We can tell that this business rule is running on task table, the parent task table. Now task table is the base table that we can call, which is kind of the mother table, we can say in layman's term, that all other task type of tables in ServiceNow should extend this table, so to get all the attributes, not exactly attributes, the methods that are defined on task table, such as assign to field, assignment group field. So we get we don't have to define those common attributes over and over, but we will see that in a separate video maybe. For now, let's just see. So when to run, so basically business rule is a wrapper around the bare metal script, if we can tell that. So, and that the script is defined here. Now we need to tell ServiceNow when do we want this script to run. It should not be that this script should run all the times whenever any event occurs in ServiceNow. That would make system very slow, and that's why we have conditions like when do you want this script to run. So we are saying that if any update operation happens on task table, and when to like there are different type of before the commit, after the commit, or asynchronously, and what is the action. So here is a user friendly version of script. You can set some values which you easily can do, but we'll skip it for now as we are talking scripting straight away. So you can see ServiceNow uses a version of JavaScript. It's very similar to JavaScript, but it is not exactly JavaScript. But it is easier for you if you know Java or JavaScript, so that for you it would be very easy to understand and read and write your own script whenever you require. So we are going to take a simple example today, and that example would explain, and that example would help you do almost 90% or even more cases or the requirements that occur in ServiceNow that can be covered with this scenario. So what do we see here? We are seeing that if current is null, current is an object, that means the current record. So if, let's say, as we opened one incident from incident table, for example, this is a record on the incident table. So on the incident table there are 70 records. As we see, there are many records in this table. Now when this script runs and matches, let's say I want to find out how many tickets, how many incidents are there which are, let's say, category is inquiry, for example. There are categories network, their category could be other type. So ServiceNow has given us a lot of utilities. I can just right click and see show matching. So out of 69 records, now I'll see that 46. Unfortunately, the way I'm recording this session, it does not cover for you to see the list of the number of records that are coming through this filter. But anyways, 46 records out of that 69 records were category is inquiry. So this was kind of a very easy filter which you could do from here, but there would be many other complicated scenarios wherein you'd have to take help of scripts. There is no way you can do it from the traditional filter mechanism, and that's when it comes under the advanced section of scripting, wherein you'd have to do scripting. So coming back to the script where we were seeing, if you look at this part here, from here to here, I think this would cover the 90% thing that I was talking about. So basically, let's have a look. What are they doing here? They're querying a table that is called task cost center, and you'd have to know which table you're going to query. Okay, so in this table we are going to do a query, so that's why we are defining it in an object. So you are taking a reference, you're creating an you're instantiating a new object that would represent a record in that table. Now there can be many records in this table, and then you put some filters. Okay, so these are the filters. Remember, we applied for a filter here, and it was very easy to do, and the filter is now shown here. Category is equal to inquiry. Okay, so show me the all records from the table, then I have put a filter, is active is equal to true, and category is equal to inquiry and help. Now let's see how we can do this from a from scripting. Of course, you can filter this the same way from scripting as well. We are just talking about the filtering part of it. What you're going to do with the records that is totally a different matter that we will see in the as we progress in this tutorial. Now what are we going to do? So if there is another very cool utility I can show you, that if you copy this query, it is going to tell you what is the backend, in the backend what is the query is being used. So you can see active is equal to true and category is equal to query. So you can literally copy this. So if I'm going to write a new record here. So the way you write scripting, the way you query tables is you have to write, it's not capital letter, variable is a way to define a variable. I'll have to tell give a name, let's say variable the object is equal to new. Now I'm creating a new instance of the table, and this is GlideRecord, and this is how you do it. You can just remember in your subconscious mind all the times that you'd have to use these identifiers, just like the way if you are familiar with, let's say, JavaScript or Java, when you call there also is a in Java there is a concept of the new identifier which you can use to instantiate new objects. So similarly we are doing it here, no gap required, and here we will have to give the name of the table. So if I am giving incident, okay, so that means now this object will be of type incident. Now it can go through each item line by line in the incident table if we were to run this. Okay, now there are more things to come, as I was saying here. Now here is the GlideRecord, this concept, right? If I write incident, then this GlideRecord object becomes an incident type. If I write change, for example, what I'm trying to say is if I write change request, this is the backend name of the change request table, then this object becomes a change request type object, and then we can work with change request table. Okay, now you could create another table, custom table. There are ways of creating your own custom table in ServiceNow. In that case, you have to find out the name of the table, and the way you do it, as I showed, you can right click on the record, and then you can see what is the table name there. So coming back to here, as let's say we are working with change request table here. Now in change request there can be hundreds of data, there can be thousands of data in change request table. We'll have to tell ServiceNow that I don't want to deal with all those 1,000 records. Get me the records which I am interested in. Now let's say I have a requirement where I am asked to do certain activities on the change requests which were updated, let's say last week, right? Or let's not go into that kind of complicated thing. Let me take another simple example, that I want to find out the list of change requests which are assigned to me, for example. Okay, now I would say so now we'll have to do this, the object dot, and watch me how we are going to add a filter. It's called query. I am adding a new query. That means I am putting a new condition, right? Now if I say, and if I say assigned to, because I want assigned to, and as assigned to is me, I'll have to get the sysid of my user object. That is another concept which maybe we could do it. So let's say sysid of my user record is something like, just let's assume, okay, sysid of user, let's say my name. Okay, and I would say, even let's not complicate this thing so much, is we could add another filter. I've just commented out. If you write these 2 lines, it means that it is not going to run this line of code. So let's take another simpler example. I would say the object, and let's say change, what can be a good change object key identifier, let's say priority. Okay, I want to find out the list of change requests which have priority is equal to 3, right? Medium priority. So I would add query again, which I have written here. You can see this identifier remains the same, and then I would write here, what do I want? I want priority. I would have to know the name of this field, and the way we find is we'll have to go. Now you might think that where am I getting these things from, right? So these things will slowly come to you when you start working in scripts. So every table has these fields. These are individual columns in the table, right? So these fields have their underlining name, which I can do right click and see the name of the field. Okay, so assigned to, you see, every task is assigned to someone for fulfillment. So if I say, let's say this is assigned to do I have a user record? I don't have a user record. Let's see who are available. Let's say Arpita. Okay, now if I save this, in the table I have saved this incident assigned to is Arpita. So if I now do a filter through this script that get me the name of the person who is assigned to, it will return Arpita's sysID. Because C is a it's an user record, and every user record is a it's another reference type of field, and every reference type of field is found out through a sysID. But if I do a search, let's say any field that you see these magnifying glasses, these are like reference type of field. That means they are a record from another table. Which table is it? You can see it from here that this is user table. Okay, and if not, then you can click, let's say let's see where this assignment group is coming from. I'll just click here, and it is coming from groups table, sys user groups table, right? And then there are different type of fields. These are reference fields, these are free text fields, right? So they are not stored as sysID. A typical sysID looks like some alphanumeric, some character like this, right, which is defined in the backend. But for the text records, it is stored just like that. So if I say that show me the incident that has short description as test this incident record, it would actually return. So that's the concept. Now let me go back to where I was. So yeah, priority. So just like for change request table, incident also has priority. Let me just in fact go to a change request table. Change request. No, I'll have to write, yeah, these are the changes. So if I open any one of them, and let's see what are the fields do we have in a change record out of the box. This platform is totally out of the box. And now here is the priority. So if I right click on here, you can see what is the name of the backend name of this field, which is priority, which you will, so never write these column names by your own. You should always copy and then write it here, right? So priority is, let's say, now this is an integer, so it should be 3 or whatever is defined. Now you may want to check that out, like what is the backend value of this. Okay, so the way we do it is we'll right click here and then show choice list. If I click in here, now the choice list, it will, now there is this thing in ServiceNow. If you just see, or if you just want to see the choice list, it will show from every table whichever table has got priority, but we only want for change request. So I'll right click in here and filter that out, and these are the four. So these are the level which is shown in the form, and these are the actual value, these are the actual underlining value. So if I am looking for the change request that has priority is moderate, 3 moderate, I'll have to copy this. So I'll just take it here and I'll write 3, which I have already done here, and then that's it. So basically, now let me just remove this complicated line. We don't want the example to be that complicated. So now if I what do I have to, what am I saying ServiceNow? That find out all the change request records, change records which are in this table, change request table. So currently, let's see how many records are there in the change table. There are 100 records. So I'm asking ServiceNow to go in the change request table and get me the change requests which are of priority 3. Now let's see what it would do. ServiceNow would go in the backend. Let me add priority field here, and this is how you can customize your own form. This is not going to affect anyone else. Now if I just say priority 3 is moderate, so look here, there are 100 records. If I just say show matching, it is going to do the exact same thing which we are asking the script to do here. So basically there are 32 change request table out of those 100 records which are of priority 3. So let's so that is what this change this piece of code is going to do. And then what is the next number? Now is the next line that we need to do. Now we'll have to take this object and then we'll have to write query. So I'm telling ServiceNow that I am done adding this filter. I don't want to add any more filter, but bear in mind I can add more filter here. I'll just copy add query, and then I'll say that let's say short description. I hope the spelling is correct, but you should never do that. Let me just in fact show you. We need to open every record, and then as I showed you that you can right click, and then once it completes loading, yeah, you can right click on short description and you can show short description. My tongue is not working anymore. So I have just copied it here. I'll just go it here and paste it. So it says that short description is whatever I want to find out. That short description, my name is good name, just like that. So if there is a change record in the change request that has priority 3 and it has short description, which is here, the short description is this. If it has short description like this, then it would return that value when I'm doing the query. And here is the query that I'm doing. So now I'll write while, right? While. Now bear in mind that while this object, now it has done the query, right? Now it will come up with some data or no data. If we keep this line, then it is very hard. I mean, I'm absolutely sure that there is no change request which has this short description. So it's better for us to remove this line so that we can expect some data. So once it has done some query, let's say it would come up with 30 records that we were seeing, right? So what do we want to do to those records? We want to perform something, right? So let's say we have a requirement that all the priority 3 requests, change requests, need to be updated with their work notes. That priority change requests need to be reviewed with CAB, for example. I'm just making this up. In the real world, you may not see this kind of requirement. Just for the sake of this tutorial, we are going to do this. So I would add this new piece of code here, that while this object dot next. Now you can just simply mug up these things. These are not going to change at all. These are like the coding standard, the coding syntaxes that needs to be followed. Then I'll have to have a starting braces and then closing braces, and here whatever I write, whatever code I write, that those actions will be performed on those 30 records, 30 change requests which were filtered by this query. So let's say I want to update every change request short description dot. I don't want to update short description. You'll never find that kind of requirement. Let's say I would update. Let me see what is the field that is available. Okay, maybe I'll update work notes. Okay, now what I want to update, I don't think work notes we can see like that, but basically I know that work notes is work underscore notes is equal to, now you'll have to tell what do you want to update here, that this record was updated by our script, right? So this is what, so look at this anatomy, if we can say, of the piece of code. That first we identified what is the object, where do we want to, which table do you want to modify or perform some action. Then we have given the table name, and rest everything remains the same. And the variable, this is our choice. I could literally write my name here, but whatever I write here, these things needs to be the same, right? But I have given it a good name, so that yeah, it is the name of the object which we are making up, right? But these rest of the things, these remain the same, right? And then we are adding some filters. Okay, you can add one filter, you can add 10 filters. So whichever, if I go back to the list to show you, for example, this is running on the business rule table, and it has how many, only one filter is there, all filter, and then table is incident, or there is a or field, which we will look at later. We don't want to start with a complicated example. For example, here we have a simple example, simple filter here. So we basically want to find out change request that has priority is equal to 3. Now we know that there are 100 change requests, out of them 30 are priority 3. So we can guess that 30 records will be returned, and then we'll go one by one. So this object will basically go all those 30 records one by one, and then perform this activity. So basically it is going to set all those objects in all those change request records with a work note that this record was updated by our script, and whatever we write here. Now the last line that is left is we'll have to update the record, right? Once we have done some once we have decided to set this value, we'll have to update. Where do we want to update? To this object. What is this object? This object is the identifier, is the record from the change request table. Okay, if we do not put this filter, if we remove this filter, then this action will be performed to all the records within the change request. Okay, so you can just remember these things, and you don't even have to remember. Once you start practicing, these things will come automatically, just like you should remember. And this is very straightforward object oriented way of writing codes. There are even more fancier codes coming through, just like in Ajax, Glide Ajax. Those are little bit different type of coding, which we would of course going to look at once we are complete with this concept, once you start to understand. So this is how we write scripts in ServiceNow. And now we are going to run this script. Now there is a concept in ServiceNow, it's called background script, and you should never use this in your customer instance. We should never run this. I'm just running here just to show you that this script will run. But I'm telling you again, you should never run free form script. And there is a warning here also. You should never run free from script. Your scripts should always be from wrappers like client script or business rule or any other. Like there are many areas where you can write scripts, like ACL. Within ACS you can write, within workflows you can write script, within data flows, flow designer we can write scripts. But anyways, just for example, I'm going to show you that this script is going to work. Okay, now as we said that there are let's just go back. Where is the list of all the changes? I'll just close it. So before running, let's just see all change requests, and it has 100 records. And now let me see if I, out of 100, there are, how many of them are there which have priority is moderate. Okay, now we are going to take a look at one of the change requests. So what we are going to do is, after we have run that script, it is expected to update this kind of changes which have priority is 3, and their work note will be updated with whatever we have copied. So it has not happened till now because we have not run the script. Now if I run this script, and let's see, I'll just copy it and run this script. So it says that script has completed. Okay, now let's go back and check. Look, whatever the record that I wanted to update, it has updated. And not only on this one, if we open a couple of other changes also, there also it should have updated the work notes. So this is how we can manipulate data in ServiceNow. This was one simple example, but the basic thing that you will have to remember, let me go back to the concept. So GlideRecord is the object instantiation, and this is the key identifier in ServiceNow, that if you put incident here in GlideRecord, and if you write incident next to it within a bracket, this GlideRecord would become a record in the incident table. If you change it to change request, it would become a representation of change request table, right, or any other table. And then once you have the GlideRecord, once you have instantiation done, we are instantiating here, then we'll add a few filters, because of course you don't want to change every record in the table. Of course in real world scenario it doesn't work like that. And so you'll have to filter the subset of the records that you want to work with, and then you'll have to update the query. Not update the query, you'll have to query the table. Now you're running the query, and then it would return the list of objects which are matching with this filter, and then you are going in a while loop. So it will go one by one to all those records that are matching, and it is going to perform this update activity. So we have set the work note as this whatever the message that we wanted to write, and then we have updated that object. So it will go one by one to all those 30 records and update. So guys, I don't want to take more longer training session. So I think this is a good unit of tutorial that I just wanted to give. If you have any question, please note it down and drop me an email, or you can get back to me. And of course we will have live sessions as well, but this would help you do the understanding, the basic understanding of how script works, how should we write script. As I said, in almost every scenario, this part of the code is very common. So if we open our example business rule that we opened earlier, you can see they are also doing the same thing, but they have a different requirement. This business rule has this script which is querying task cost center, and then they're adding some query, and they're querying the table, then they're running the while loop, and inside the while loop they're doing some sort of activities depending upon what they want this script to do. So this is how it is done. And there you go, you have understood the basic concept of scripting. Thank you for your time. Thanks for joining this session. Have a nice day.